Hello, and we're live. And wow, this is going to be a bag full of energy. I know it is.
What makes
So I'm here today. I'm here today talking with Breda McCaig and Simon Haigh talking to Breda McCaig. That's cool. And we're going to be talking about the whole area of inner drive and outer drive. And before we do, a little bit about me. I help organizations and leaders grow through business, leadership, brand, and mindset growth. And for me, drive, I think from the age of 16, I realized I had a lot of internal drive and resilience. And we're going to talk a little bit about me. But Breda, maybe just give the audience an overview of you and your background and what you do.
Yeah, happy to. Delighted to be here with you, Simon, first of
It's
all.
great to be with you.
Love the conversations you and I have. So delighted that we're coming on here to share our conversations with everybody else and see can someone else learn from us or get involved even better. So I'm Breda McCaig. I am co-founder and co-chair of Lean in Ireland, which is an organisation that empowers women to achieve their ambitions. And because of my involvement in that, I'm probably quite a massive advocate of diversity and inclusion. I work in financial services. I'm a project manager by trade. I have three boys, 13, 10, and 6. I play music. I'm music mad. I play in a rock band and a trad band. And I spent 20 years in the Reserve Defence Forces, being my unit's first female lieutenant.
Wow. And you got just unbelievable energy and I just can't wait to talk about the whole area of drive. And so I'll ask you let's just get into this. So the first question is, how do you know that you have inner drive? What is it about you that you feel, or is it that you notice? What is it? How do you know that you have inner drive?
So for me, and again, the whole purpose of this is to story tell our stories to see, because I know I've learned from people's stories in the past. So my story would be that I have noticed that when I hit an obstacle somewhere, whether that's in a career scenario, whether that's in a sort of goal scenario, it's in your personal life, no matter where it is, I know that I deal with it differently to others. And I've noticed that. And I would say, because I've analyzed that to try and understand what am I doing that's to others, so that then I can lift that and shift that and teach people how to do that. So I know that what happens when I hit an obstacle, and it doesn't seem to matter how big an obstacle either, there's an unstoppability in me, but I know how I work it now. I've broken it down. So when I hit an obstacle, I certainly stop. I pause with it. I assess it. And then I move to accept it. And I always have to figure out why that obstacle is there. How has that grown? If I can't dissolve it or I can't delete it, then I will figure a way of going around it. And people had said that to me in the past. And I assumed everybody did this, you see. So it was people that had said to me, nothing seems to stop you, Breda. And when people say things like that to you, you stop yourself and wonder, what am I doing then that's different to everyone else? But certainly, my new mantra this year, Simon, is find new ways. I would say, this year I came up with that one for me, and I've been sharing it on my social media to help others, because the obstacle sort of way rounds that I used to be able to apply were taken away this year with COVID. So I found myself with all of my usual sort of ways around things gone, that I had to get more creative, more imaginative, and more innovative for me. So, and that's the sort of teachings that I'm trying to do with my social media as well. So find new ways around every obstacle, and don't even, once you've assessed it and accepted it, that it's a problem or it's an obstacle, then you just move on. You find a new way around it, and that's where your focus then goes.
Wow. I think what you've just said there really is the epitome of a growth mindset. It's the opposite of a fixed, brittle mindset, and I think Eckhart Tolle talked about, when something difficult comes to you, you have three choices. You either avoid, you adapt, or you accept, and you don't just throw up your arms and say, oh my God, what do I do? There's avoid, adapt, or accept. So that was wonderful. That was powerful stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I have a question for you now. I want to ask you where you think your inner drive comes from, because I think we're probably all, we get inner drive from different sources and different experiences in our lives. And I'm wondering, have you identified where your inner drive is coming from for you?
It's interesting because, I do a lot of training and lecturing around influencing skills and resilience and this kind of stuff. And I've done a lot of research into this. And humans are generally, we're born resilient, right? We're actually born resilient, number one. And we're also born with an instinct to influence. So you remember when we're kids, we used to stamp our feet or cry to get that piece of chocolate or candy. So we had that innate ability to influence others. And as I said, we're also born resilient. The issue is, so we're actually born resilient, right? We're born with an inner drive, right? The problem is that during childhood, and this happened to me, and I can share a little bit about my story, and particularly teen years, you then start picking up the anxieties, the fears, the imposter syndrome stuff from your parents and from your surroundings. When you're a kid in a house with a family, it's a very, very intense time. Okay. So you start losing that resilience, that drive, or that awareness of your own inner drive because you're coping. So that kind of happened to me. And, I'll never forget, there was trauma in the family and I was meant to do really well for my O levels when I was 15, 16. And I didn't because I was going through a lot of problems in the house. And there was something in me to this day. I don't know what it was, but it must have been drive. And it was, Simon, you just need to, and I go to extreme, right? You need to lock yourself away for a couple of days, a couple of years, and you need to study like mad, right? To prove to yourself and to the world. And I did, and I ended up getting the highest marks in my A levels. And so from that day, from the age of 17, I've realized that I have very deep pockets of resilience and drive. And but so there's two aspects of that. There's the push stuff, trying to get away from where you've been, but also the pull factor. It's that optimism, that energy, that dynamism that really pulls you to the future. So I think that's the way I would answer that. So thanks. That was a good question.
Yeah. And I agree with all of that too. The push, the pull, the whole lot. It's all
absolutely
there.
Yeah. And it's about the self-awareness. And as you said, I realized at the age of 17 that I had a capability. I was lacking confidence at that time, and I just had to apply myself. And so back to you, what can people do you think, to connect with themselves and their true unique powers? I mean, we're all the best version of ourselves, right? There's no better Breeder McCaig on planet Earth than you, right? What can people do to connect with that? I'm putting pressure on you. Exactly. So what can people do to connect to the best version of themselves, their true unique powers?
Yeah. And sort of like what your story covered there, childhood, I think that sort of resilience, the natural resilience, is knocked out of us a bit as we are growing up. Teenage years are never easy on anyone. And I think then you're finding your way. And at some point in your life, if you hit an emotional wall of some kind, you end up having to go find yourself again. And one of the quotes that would have helped me to find back, get my way back to my unique power or my unique sort of resilience and drive would have been a quote that I came across on social media, which I love. And it was, she remembered who she was and the game changed.
Wow.
And that was a whopper. I remember reading that and going, whoa. And it brings you back to that childhood and that Breeder, the kid who was struggling, and trying to learn and yet was losing resilience, and was just probably trying to get through life, but hadn't got massive inspiration around her, hadn't got coaches, hadn't got mentors, hadn't got people like you in her environment, hadn't got Google, and didn't have social media to learn from. So, but I think that was my turning point. She remembered who she was and the game changed. So you remember how strong you were as a kid and how resilient you did feel. Plus, absolutely. I remembered, me as a kid, I was very competitive. I was very successful. I played music. I did sports. I did so many things as a kid and as a teenager and into my 20s.
Yeah.
And I always was very good at going out to do well. I held myself to high standards. So that was the version that I retreated back to, and the game changed for me.
That's powerful, because there's an amazing book called Aligned by a French-American management guru called Hortense Le Gentil, and I've interviewed her, and she actually says that if you're doing the work that you love doing, which I do and you do, right, and then you reflect back on your early childhood, right, before those anxieties and fears, kicked in, you'll realize that you're actually feeling and being motivated in a similar way than you were back then, right? So when I was 7, or 10 or 11, I was quite organized. I was a quiet extrovert. I wasn't an introvert, but I was organized, and I was very good at kind of influencing and driving stuff. And today, that's what I do. And I think that's what you were talking about. So that was wonderful. So back. So that was wonderful. That was wonderful.
And I have another question for you now. I had prepared all of these. I was thinking about these. And it's a massive one for me, this one. How do you think adults can influence drive in younger people?
That's a massive question. And there's a lot of responsibility in the answer to that question. And so I think the first thing to say is you can't force it down young people's neck, right? I mean, as I said, we're all born with that inner drive and resilience. But I do think we have a responsibility, particularly people who have been awakened and enlightened like you and I have, to share some of the things that we've learned through life. Life is like a stone. The rugged edges get polished off as you go through life. So I think we have a responsibility to show them the way. And it's funny, I'm just about finished recording a series of motivational videos, which are going to go live through a platform in the States, and I'll give them a plug, called Steer Us. And it's a program that I've created, and the words will resonate with you. The program is called Who Do You Want to Be? This is a training program for young people. It's called Who Do You Want to Be? And so 13 different modules in it. And really, it's my way of sharing back my observations. So I talk about things like, how do you develop a mindset for growth? How do you create the perception of power? How can you be more influential? How can you develop, even as a young person, your personal brand? What about assertiveness? What do you need to do to really work on assertiveness and resilience? All those kind of things. And I think, really, to answer your question, it's just flagging all the possibilities for the younger generation. It's not forcing it down their neck, because they have to be ready. And I find I'm very inspired by doing this work. What do you think, Breda? I mean, I'll put it back to you, that question.
Yeah, I've seen another, like, you can gather by the way I speak about quotes, that is how I get more awakened. So quotes are the way I test my own thinking, and lead me to realize that I have more work to do on some little piece of myself. But there was a quote somewhere that I came across, and it said, "Be the person that you needed when you were 16." And I remember going, oh my God, I know exactly what I needed at 16, and it wasn't there. So I'm now trying to be exactly that person for the 16-year-olds out in the world.
Yeah.
Hence
Yeah.
my social media. I've just done a YouTube video with my babysitter, who is a 17-year-old girl. And we went to body image. We went into some of the probably quirks and corners most people avoid. But I think that's exactly what I needed when I was 16. So I think it's massive. And I think, had I have had a Simon Haigh or a Breda McCaig in my life at 16, I definitely would have, probably my career would have been a lot faster. I would have had more confidence. I would have done more things with my life faster.
Yeah.
I'm catching up now, but I'm 44.
Well,
This happened to me earlier, folks. So I'm trying to do that for anybody that I can sort of influence and help teach.
No, likewise. And I'm 53, and I've only just really started figuring this stuff out in the last couple of years. So back to you. How important would you say, is aligning your authentic self with what you do? How important is that?
Yeah. And it's something I was actually talking to someone about this morning. I was doing an interview with someone, and we were talking about the effort that some people think has to go into having an online presence. And I was saying that for me now, like, I go filter free. Like, the Breda that you see here now is the Breda that you meet for coffee. And it's the Breda that you'd have a chat with in a queue, in a shop, in a grocery store. So, I've managed to treat the areas of myself that I knew needed work. And I've got myself at a point now that I like me. So I can be authentically me. And I think that's what people can relate to, because I do think we have a lot of gloss, and we have a lot of sort of very pretty professional sort of influencers around. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what helps people. I think when you can relate to someone and you can see you in them, that you can learn from them. And that's what I want to do.
That's really powerful. And, I've gone through that journey as well. I said, I did well in my A levels at school. I ended up taking a career route that really wasn't me. I ended up going into the legal profession, and it was great. And I ended up writing books and on a certain journey. But I realized at a certain age, and it was kind of middle age, that I was living a fraud of a life. I was really living life to kind of prove others wrong, and also to prove something to myself. And it's only really working on myself where I realized I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Just be me, right? I have capabilities. I have a story to tell. Tell it, right? And don't worry about what people think. Don't worry about what people say. Say it, because guarantee it's going to resonate with somebody. So, and I guess I'd just like to shout out to anybody out there who are going through this kind of imposter syndrome, lacking confidence. Just be you. Like, people said this to me for years, and I struggled with it, right? And if you do just be you and say what's in your head and what you're thinking, what you're passionate about, it will resonate with people. So that was wonderful. That was wonderful. Thanks.
I have another question for you now. I'm enjoying this. This is like
Me
mastermind.
too.
What advice would you give to those who struggle to maintain drive and motivation? Because that's one I get a lot. So they see the likes of myself or yourself, and they wonder, how are you so motivated all the time? And people meet me in the mornings and they're like, I want to avoid you in the morning, Breda. You're far too happy. But I want to hear your advice to those who are struggling, particularly in lockdown at the moment. I'd say there's a distinct lack of motivation and drive for some people. So what would you say to help them?
Well, the first thing I would say is, this is pragmatic advice, right? We're going through a bit of a tough year, right, for the world, for nearly everybody. There's not many people who are enjoying this year. Hopefully a result over in the States is one of the first three things that need to change, along with the whole Brexit thing and the coronavirus. So hopefully there is a turning point happening. But just bear in mind that there have been crises throughout history, right? There have been difficult times throughout history, and eventually we will come through this. And economically, one day there will be a boom, right? There will be an almighty boom, right? There are always going to be opportunities, and it's about hunkering down and spending this time to find the best version of yourself, right? And I've done that this year. I've really educated myself on technology stuff. It's also really, really important, I think, to work on deconstructing unhelpful learned behaviors, right? So try and spend some time, whether it's do a course or whether it's talk to somebody like you or me, and try and pinpoint what are those behaviors in you that are not really helping you. And I've gone through this with somebody over here, and try and face them, right? If you don't face them, they're always going to be there. So find whatever fears that you have, right? Find those fears. And I spent some time doing this. I actually wrote a lot of fears that I had on a notebook, and I kept chopping away when I dealt with them, right? Because I think we have this tendency to think that we have millions of negative things going on at the same time. No, we don't. We only actually have one thought at one point. So break it down, right? Dispense with them once you've done that, and then start working on realizing that you are the best version of you, right? There is nobody better than Brian Kennedy who's watching, or Breda Fahey's watching, or Michelle Murray. They are the best version of them, right? And so I think it's about breaking down that mush of anxiety and fear in you. Break it down and just chip away. And once you've done that, you realize there's only one or two fears left. So I think for me, that's the best way to really clear out the cache and just move forward.
And I would add to that, Simon, in with me, I know that if my pull and my vision is strong enough, that I actually sometimes find myself nearly forgetting about the mire of stuff that's going on around us.
Absolutely.
And I get so focused on, and so driven and so hungry for what it is I want to do with my life, that stuff doesn't seem that big to me. So there's a bit of vision that helps people there, and a massive pull that can get us through rough times. And as you said earlier, there'll always be something. I mean,
absolutely.
is affecting everyone, I think. So it's on a global stage, but there will always be something in everybody's life. So,
Yeah. And it's
you know,
funny. It's funny, because I think I told you, but I gave up drinking a number of years ago. And when I used to drink, I used to think people who didn't drink were the most boring people. And I used to think, what would my life would be so boring if I don't drink. Today, there just isn't enough out. There aren't enough hours in the day to learn the stuff, to write the stuff, to lecture, to train. It's just life. Life is there to be grabbed, and I guess I'd also add that try and treat every day as a lifetime, right? You wake up at 7 in the morning or 6 and you go to sleep 10, 11 midnight. That's all you have. That's your life, right? Tomorrow might not exist. So maximize today, even when you're going through a bad time, even the little things you can find. And I know that because I've been in a bad place in the past, and even the little things like a walk on the beach was great. So that was wonderful. So back to you. What would you say is the most important? What's most important to you? Resilience, awareness, or self-respect, and why? That's a huge question. Resilience, awareness, or self-respect?
and these are the ones I struggle with when I have to pick which is the most important, because all three are obviously very important things to work on. But I would say, and what I've learned on my own journey is the awareness is the first place it all happens. So if you're not aware of your respect or your resilience, then you won't even know to work on it. Self-awareness right across all of the topics in self-mastery is where you unlock the door. You start to see and assess yourself on everything. And that's when you start to figure out which pieces you need work on, which pieces of your conditioning you yet have to treat, maybe what biases are in there that you didn't realize or you haven't worked on yet. And I literally drew my own methodology after I'd been through my journey of self-mastery and all of the learning I did. And by the way, I did most of my learning through online and through Google. And you mentioned there about sometimes you haven't enough hours in the day to do all the learning and do everything that you want to do. I'm like that. And I'm finding like we've Wi-Fi now. We are in houses with buckets of information and we have loads to learn, folks.
I know.
I don't think I'll ever stop learning this stuff until I am gone. So there's loads to do. But to your question, I would say self-awareness is the first thing. And then for me, I would say the self-respect bit has to be worked on next. Because if you start to realize your value and you get your self-respect into a good place and your self-confidence is unshakable, and that you can do through work, then your resilience is automatically better because nobody puts baby in a corner.
That's wonderful. That's
Which is where I got myself to. When I worked enough on my self-worth and my value and realized my value, which is a thing everybody needs to do, then your resilience will come with it easier because you won't let people devalue you or disrespect you anymore because you like yourself now and you don't deserve that. So nobody puts Breda in a corner anymore. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And no, I agree with that. And I'd like to shout out to a guy who really helped me, a guy called Justin Caffrey, and based here in Greystones in Ireland. And what he did for me was demonstrate to me that 99% of the negative things that happened to me in my life, or I felt were happening to me, that I had some responsibility for them, right? When I'd been bullied, or I felt like I was being bullied, or when businesses failed or relationships failed, 99% of the time it was because of me, right? And the quicker I own up to that fact, right, the easier it will be for me to release myself from those anxieties and self-imposed limitations, So that really resonated. That was wonderful. Thanks.
My turn now, Simon.
It is.
So this is one that I want you to think about. What is the fastest way to help someone find and unleash their drive? So this is sort of, I suppose, people that feel motivated, but maybe stuck because of COVID, particularly this year, or just maybe having the confidence to unleash it. What would you say to them?
Yeah. Well, obviously, the obvious thing is to try and, tune into discussions like this and search out leaders who have That's a nice comment, John. Try and search out leaders who and thought leaders and people like you and I who have actually been through a real journey, right? We've been through tough times, right? And we have now, so we have an awareness of what it's like to feel and to think and to have the physical symptoms and the emotions in a tough time, right? But equally, we've come through that, and now we know how to think, feel, have emotions and behaviors in positive times. So I would say to people, look for people, genuine people who have been through that journey. Don't just seek out, there's plenty of people out there who say they're experts in this field, right? But they've just read textbooks, right? I think it's really important to connect with people like you, like me, people like Justin and other people out there who actually lived and breathed bad times and good times. That's the first thing. The second area then, I think the whole area of grittiness, right? So we talk about resilience and awareness and self-resilience and all that stuff, but there's this kind of mysterious area called grittiness, right? Which for me is more about matching your passion, your inner passion, right? There's an inner passion which is kind of slightly different to drive. It's kind of this, and you have it, like it's almost like a child, like, God, I can't believe that I've got so much energy, right? So and channeling that. So maybe, and so I think it's the opposite of getting distracted, right? It's the opposite of being stuck in setbacks. It's the opposite of time wasting. It's the opposite of prevarication. It's about searching out programs, training programs, or connecting with people who really focus on driving forward, but in a way that's substantial and substantiated, not delusional. There are also people out there who are, I suppose, snake oil merchants who will guarantee you success, right? If you ever hear anybody say, I guarantee you success, personally, I would be very careful, right? because it depends not just what they're saying, but what you're thinking and where you're at. So I think it's seek out those really, truly, and try and find out people's journeys. It's amazing. Somebody connected with me from India a couple of months ago on LinkedIn, and I'm now I'm just starting a mentoring program. And I asked her, why did you seek me out? And she said, because I've been watching you on LinkedIn for the last 6 months, and I've seen your personal growth journey, So it's amazing. So just connect and watch and observe. And I would recommend people really connect and watch and observe Breda as well, because she is the true living embodiment of somebody who knows and understands the tough times, but appreciates the positive and basically has found the key to a positive future. That's my long-winded answer.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Simon. To your point, I think when I was starting my journey of self-mastery, one of the things I knew I'd have to find was people who inspired me. And like what you described there, they have to be the legit, the genuine, the no agenda ones that just want to share their story and they want to help others. And they are out there, folks. And they are on your Google, and they are all over social media, and they are sharing like we are today, just because we want others to learn, because we're passionate about that. So I don't think you can do this stuff without others that you can see who have done this before.
Absolutely, you can't.
Inspire you, and they help you to aim even further than you originally maybe set out to do. So, like, really important, very, very important stuff to do.
Very important, very, very important. So let's just wrap up with the last question each, and we've had a stunning feedback. It's been great chat, and can't wait to see the following chat after we've finished the live recording. But the final question is, what are you planning to do next year to further align your inner drive with your outer drive? What are your plans for next year?
I mentioned earlier I run projects as well, and I think I run my life like an agile project. Ever since I've learned project management skills and organizing and spinning plates, one of the sort of tricks they do in agile is the traffic lights. So you start, you stop, and you pause. And I would say next year I want to definitely start more of what I've been enjoying this year. Now, COVID for many was a disaster, and it was for me too in many ways, but it allowed everybody else to come online. And I've been online on social media trying to do things like this for a long time. And now everybody's here. And this is our only place to meet up, to mix, to share stories now. So I want to do more of the social media stuff. I want to do more online. I want to connect with more people in the world, like you, Simon, and get more inspiration from myself. So that's what I want to do. More of this. I want to definitely stop some things. And I do want to do less of some things. So once you're consciously aware of your strategy for next year, that's okay. If you're not, and you're just sitting worrying about 2021 and COVID and lockdowns, you need to do some work. So that's what I'm working on. My start, stop, pause, what I want to continue, what I want to do more of and less of.
What do you want to do less of? That's I'm putting you on the spot now. What do you want to say?
Probably less of some of the things that I'm doing this year that I could do without. So I won't tell you what they are, but I know what they are.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of conscious assessment. So I'm very clear on what I don't want. And I'm clearish on how I get rid of it.
Yeah.
But,
I agree.
I want more of. So that helps me. Again, we talk about push and pull, that drive, that focus, that hunger. That's what I'm after. I want more of that in 2021.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for me, I want less admin. I'm really bad with admin and spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff. And my plans for next year, I've actually got the Steer Us online training program for the younger generation is coming out through this American company. And I'm recording my own online program, which is very exciting. And then something that you and I talked about when we met, and we've registered a domain, and it's called mindu.ie. And I'll leave it at that, but everybody should just watch this space, because this is going to be something that Breeder and I are going to be talking about and releasing next year. So just watch the space. That was wonderful.
Yeah. And I have a last question for you as well, Simon. And it's, which is more important, the push and the drive, or the pull where you have vision? What would you say drives you more?
For me, if you'd asked the 30-year-old rather than the 53-year-old version of me, it would have been the drive. But I do think it's, as you get older, it's a balance, and it's the balance of the two. That's the honest answer. For me, it's the balance of the two. So, I recognize I have really, really deep drive, right, and very strong resilience, and I'm like a bull in the china shop many times. But I've also realized that if that's not pegged to a strategy, to setting goals, to setting visions, right, to goal mapping, to goal setting, all of which I do, then I can end up just overworking. So I have to balance the two, and so balance for me is key. And you need to put, you need drive, right, to put stuff into practice. You need drive, obviously, as the seed for the journey, but you need to balance it with the strategic, what I call strategic serendipity, right? So drive is important, but if you don't have a vision, and if you don't break it down into steps, really you're going to be a bit delusional, quite honestly. So you need to do that, and by combining the two, you create what I call strategic serendipity. You make your own luck. And there's a really, really good book out there called Into the Magic Shop by an American neurosurgeon called James Doty, D-O-T-Y. And he came from a very famous American neurosurgeon, but he came from a broken family. Father was an alcoholic, and mother was broken. And at the age of 12, he walked into a magic shop in California. It's a true story. And this woman took him under her wing for the summer holiday. And she said she was going to teach him magic. But what she actually did was to teach him 4 key steps to match your drive with your vision, the balance. And number 1 is mind your body, right? Look after your body in life, right? Number 2 is mind your mind as well. Relax, meditate. Number 4 is what we all do, which is set goals and visions. But number 3, most people don't do, right? And I think this sums up our conversation. Number 3 is set your honest intent. Become honest about who you are, where you've been, where you want to go. So mind your mind, mind your body, set your honest growth journey, and then put it into action. So I think that would be my that's how I would describe that. For me, it's about balance.
Well, just finish up. For me, the pull, how I get the pull going, as in the vision and the hunger and the appetite for this life that I've designed, is through vision boards. So I have been doing vision boards for years. I've done them with groups of people, and oh my God, you want to see what we did? We when you give your mind pictures and words and graphics and you engage with that emotionally and imagine that you've already got that life and how that feels, your mind will find ways to get you there. And we all sorts of stuff happening amongst a lean-in circle I did that with. So that works. And then the other thing that I do for myself is, like what you said there, you need to know what steps it is you have to take. So you need to know the actions, the milestones, what it is you need to sort of accomplish. And sometimes that's the bit I think where people get stuck and they don't want to do it. They know they should do it and they don't want to do it. And that's where I think I kind of make myself do things. So not all of the time will I get up and say, oh, I want to do 6 videos today, or I want to go for a 2-mile run in the rain. No, I don't. I get up and I know what I should do. I'm hungry enough because of my vision boards. And I will literally make myself do it. I'll just have a word with myself and say, off you go, get out of bed, or whatever it is, or just go and squeeze it in somehow. I'll give myself a little talking to. I make myself do things all the time. And between the two, it works.
I hope nobody's listening to you when you're talking to yourself, but you have to do this. And I do something similar, you know, we have to do this. We have to push ourselves, you know, so that was wonderful. So this is a really great chat and we've had amazing feedback. So how do people find out about you and connect with you, Breda?
Yeah, so I love social media. So I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But probably the easiest place to find me and see what I do all around my motivational talks and my emceeing is my website. So it's bredamccaig.com. Nice and easy. So in there, you'll find all the links to my social media and you can send me an email from my website. So I'd love to hear from all of you.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And of course, I can be contacted, Simon at simonhaigh, HAIGH.com. or my website, simonhaigh.com, or LinkedIn. I'm kind of addicted to LinkedIn. So, and likewise, I love talking to anybody who has really good ideas about programs or who really want to work on themselves or looking to collaborate. Collaborate plus innovate equals empowerment and advancement. So that was wonderful, Breda. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Simon. Really enjoyed that.
Thanks. Bye-bye. See you. Bye.